What about you? What do you do?
My older daughter and her husband are coming in. They alternate, each year they alternate Thanksgiving and Christmas with our family and his family. So this year we get Thanksgiving, they get Christmas. So they're coming in for Thanksgiving for a few days, which will be nice. I haven't seen them since Mother's Day. So
Where do they live?
they live outside of DC.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Well, sad to see Rose Roswell and her.
I know, right? 96 though.
That's what they said at my mom's grave.
And Jimmy Carter's 99, I think.
Yeah, we all thought he had his breast cancer. He was gonna go to birth.
I did.
This is really silly. I apologize for saying. But I hope he at least lasts till next year, so I can go to DC.
That's not a silly thing, that's an historic.
It's going to be a big, it would be a big event, I think. Well, and you have to admire him as a person, even if you didn't admire him as a president. Yeah. If you didn't like his politics as a person, he's a very honorable, very caring man. You know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I suspect that's going to be, and you know, it's interesting because during his term, he was not viewed upon very favorably, but I think since then, history has been very, very kind to him. So I suspect there'll be a big turnout for that, whenever that is.
One of my daughters. Like I said, it's a simple little thing, because every mom, I really want to respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, you know, sometimes when a spouse goes, when you've been married that long,
That's what I was just.
sometimes it doesn't take long. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's uncommon. Oh, yeah, they do. I looked it up today. You have to have a charter and a board of directors and.
I was curious, I thought on that I was like, I don't know what it was and what it was.
Yeah, no, there are very specific things according to state law that you need to adhere to be considered a club.
And he's here. But yeah, there's the mayor. That.
Quarantining.
Was he sick?
I think, yeah, COVID is.
Sorry, Mayor.
And this is a bad one, the one that's going around now. I got it twice in a month and a half.
Once is enough for anyone.
Well, my brother works for the Virginia Department of Health, and he was saying with this one, that's happening a lot.
Really?
People will be getting it for a week or two, then test negative, but then within a month or so,
It comes
they're getting
back.
recurrence of it.
Ah.
And that's this one that's going around.
Is it because it hasn't gone away fully, or they're more susceptible, their immune system is weakened? They don't know.
Because of the weather right now, you know, people are more susceptible to colds and flus. And
Yeah, but that's not
viruses.
typically the way we see a flu works,
This-
right?
Yeah, this is,
Ah,
he said that they're saying, I forget what he called it, they're not even calling it a recurrence. They, I forget what he called it.
huh.
They're considering it the same when they're tracking how many instances there are of the virus.
So they don't count it twice?
They're not counting it twice.
I see.
They're all saying it's the same,
I
same
see.
one,
Wow.
which is why everybody's getting it. People are getting it, they're staying home, they're quarantined, and they're going back out, not realizing that, you know, they're still breathing it everywhere.
Right.
And, you know, this was an emergency one this time.
Huh.
Well, you're very smart. Well, there's the problem. And people have the yard, they'll have to put it, it's something organized. I can.
It's something that we need to reach out. Is it a? I appreciate it. We're gonna figure out what's going to be tomorrow. Oh, yeah, I mean, you might want to just share that. Yeah. Left it on my desk. I don't think we got a quorum today.
No?
Is that not coming?
Huh?
Is that not coming?
Uh-oh.
So, and we know those two are away. And,
Then we can't meet.
but I think we wait and see, but, Dan and,
Yeah.
So he didn't say, I guess, he didn't talk about the year what's coming. I think so. That wasn't coming.
I got the feeling one, because he said, he felt like we weren't all that prepared, and I think he wanted those other guys here. So he gave me the impression that he was not,
Which other guy?
what,
Which
well,
other
the,
guy?
Dan and
Oh,
Alex. You know,
everybody here?
a lot of those guys are, especially if we're doing that Thursday, but they're involved, especially with, well, both of them are with the new assignments, you know, the assignments, the new, you know, the people on the committees, you know, they should be wearing in. One's for ARB, who's for ARB, and one's for Plan Commission,
All right.
so.
Yeah, I would definitely like to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I would too. I could wait a few minutes, but I think the kinds of people that I talk to them. Any, well, that's, we wrote those.
Yeah. Exactly. I got all dressed up.
Yeah, I know.
No face to go.
I know, you don't, I know, I put on my good shirt. But, and we got a crowd here. We're saying we got a crowd here.
Oh, that's a shame.
And well, even the mayor's too.
What happens when we don't have a quorum? Do we just meet next month?
No, yeah, I think we just postpone, cancel, or unless we go on with another,
I mean, I think we can.
we could probably do
We
it.
still have a meeting, we just can't vote on it.
Yeah, but
Is that
I don't
how?
know. I don't,
I
that
think
that would
that's
be a
how it
good,
works when there's.
that would be, don't,
Yeah, that's a good question to ask Javier.
yeah,
Hey, Javier,
but I'm not gonna say.
if there's no quorum, what
Let me
happens?
talk briefly.
So you have three people, so you could discuss.
Okay, so
yeah,
you're
that-
right.
Yeah, if it's not a meeting, you just can't vote on it.
And my suggestion is that if you only have three with work, you can spend the next meeting catching up on everything from last meeting.
So,
So kind of things. But any housekeeping you want to do, you could.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
I already mentioned,
That was even.
I already mentioned it.
Okay.
And I already mentioned that out here, I didn't talk about it, but I do think we need to catch up with the minutes. I think we need to get that under October. I mean, we didn't have the minutes last time, we got the system, and I think, you know, I told them, I could let them know about, it. Said, you know, we need to get that crafted. Yeah, I'd still like to get the meeting
Yeah.
before the work session. Yeah, just to see where we're at with things, I just feel that's important. And I know it's been tough, but I think that's a really important thing. But well, I guess we'll have a long meeting next month because
We'll have extra business to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we said we were gonna do it tonight.
See, and it's a shame, not a shame, like sometimes. The second, and third Monday. I mean, the first Monday is, I mean, could be anywhere from 8 to
Right,
the 14th,
right.
and I think it was like closer to the 14th.
Right, it could be a long stretch
You know,
before we
right,
meet again.
where- So we're supposed to.
It's a long,
Thanksgiving, everybody's out of town. I just hope that's not what's gonna happen with, I'm looking at my calendar now. I mean, it.
Well, in school, I gave 20 minutes, that was it. Okay, 10.
dismissed, it's probably not a good time of year to.
So next month it would be the 12th and the 19th.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I think if people aren't here by 7, I mean, I think they're not coming.
Yeah. Dismiss, no,
App says it's 3 hours.
can we even take the public comment? I guess not. Hey, Javier, can we even take public comment? Even though we're not here, can they? So if somebody wanted to, we can save it for next time, yeah.
Yeah, we can just put it on.
Yeah. Well, let's do that at least. Let's do that if somebody came here to.
Yeah, I want to
To-
honor the people
to,
that showed up.
Hey, can I chime in? Can I chime in here?
Yes,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, sure.
You're.
Why don't we do this? Why don't I call the meeting to order? We can't approve the agenda because we don't have the right number of people here, but we can, like Bill said, have a public forum, staff report, and then we can defer all the other business till next month.
Sounds good.
All right,
Still have your 3 committee reports, okay? We still have committee reports too, if you like. But we just can't do anything else down the list there. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
I think that's, I don't think that would violate any laws.
I don't know, we'll find out. Attorney
All
honest,
right.
no?
Let me call the meeting to order and have the town clerk call the roll, please, for official minutes
Mayor Smith,
here.
Mr. Bissett. Mr. Briscoe. Ms. Hines. Here. Mr. Heisen.
Here,
Ms. Morse
here.
and Mr. Payne.
Okay, thank you, clerk. I'm gonna ask Mr. Heisen if he'd lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
geez.
Since you're there in the chair.
See, I don't know if I know.
All right.
I can tell if I have to. But I pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you, Mr. Heisen. As we said, we can't approve the agenda because we don't have the votes. We can't approve the financial report, but we can have our public forum next. And I would invite anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on any subject, take the podium and identify yourself, and let's hear what's on your mind.
Thank you. I'm Nancy Schlichting, member representing from the planning meeting, the Riviera Club of the Horseshoe Bend. I'm here on their behalf. I just have one thing I was gonna ask. I understand that, there's not a lot that can be done today, but, I would ask that you consider calling a public hearing for one additional item in addition to what you have on the agenda. And that would be to allow Riviera Club to be, grandfathered in and allowed to proceed under the by right provision. That does not preclude you from cleaning up the ordinances and figuring out what you want to do going forward, but they have been in the process. There have been other clubs that have been allowed entry through the by right provision under 11.010.1. And we would ask that you perhaps put that up for on your agenda for a vote to allow them to proceed, so that they're not being penalized by the timing of your administrator very correctly identifying the inconsistency in the ordinance. But you do have an ordinance that you could that is in place that you could follow, which is the 11.10.1, and that way you can allow them, you allow your administrator to allow them to see by right, and then take up the issue of the ordinances, and that way you're not creating any precedent. That seems to be one of the concerns. I personally don't think it's a concern, in that I think precedent also needs to be considered from the light of, allowing and not, killing the idea of clubs coming into the area in order to promote the things that Scottsville is trying to promote. But this club is already governed by the state of DC, federalized by Internal Revenue Code, as a 501c7 entity. And so I'm thinking that if you could add that to your notice and potentially take that up as a vote, it would allow this club to proceed in December. So I appreciate the big council's consideration of that.
We could probably add that to the work session and talk. I know it's pretty complicated. I have a question. Somebody, I don't know if this is the time to ask you, but somebody's asking me about the club. Is there is the whole building, or is it, because there were plans for apartments above? Is that nixed now, or is it just the bottom part? Or I just wondered if it's the whole use of the building, for one thing.
I have to.
Okay, that's
tell you, I talked
and
to that, but I can
but
find out.
you're right, and also somebody else has said, what's the hours? And I guess that's an important consideration, because there's, I guess we have hours in towns for, breweries and things like that too, but it would be good to know a little bit more about it. So maybe at the work session, maybe Alex will be here and he could tell us more about that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think he's allowed to speak.
Huh?
I don't think he's.
Oh, he's not
to
allowed. Maybe
speak.
you could come to the
That's
work
fine.
session. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay.
Sure, I mean, I think that it's already been established that the administrator doesn't have any concerns about parking or about noise or anything
Yeah.
of that nature, so I'm sure this is something that needs to be
Yeah.
addressed.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's a
not.
private club. It's not open to
Right.
the public the way.
Yeah. So
But
A
there's
brewery
still,
or a
but there's
restaurant.
still,
there could be noise. and
yeah,
stuff like
they're
that.
still subject to
Yeah.
noise ordinance and all
Yeah.
of that stuff. I don't know how it works for the business, if
Yeah.
the businesses set their own
Yeah.
hours or they're required by law.
No,
I
we
don't
have
know.
ordinance, I think, on businesses, don't we?
When you have things like an Elks Lodge or the Masons or
Yeah.
Rotary Club or Lions
Yeah.
Club or, anything which it sounds like this is gonna be very much like. I think there's a lot of events. I don't think you can really. Tell me if I'm speaking out of turn. You can't really say there's set hours, because sometimes you might have a Christmas party that goes to midnight on Sunday, which normally wouldn't be hours of operation.
Right.
I think with a private club, it's hard to tell hours.
Right, and of course, if they violated the noise ordinance, it would be exempt from that.
Right.
And just like my
Right.
Christmas party.
Right,
Yeah.
you're right, you're right.
No, that was my point, is they would be subject to any of the town ordinances that are already in place. One thing as a caveat to that I would like to ask, I have no background on this club. So if you have provided, I think by law, you have to provide, you have to have a charter and board of directors. And you mentioned, I think last time, that there would be volunteer work going on. Any of that background information would be really helpful in consideration of this.
Okay, I will, and I can tell you, that their mission statement is basically that it's a nonprofit club that is attempting to unite people that are, socially celebrating life together. They also have in mind, and they've tried to put together some civic opportunities to, help the community. They are trying to cultivate good friendship and fellowship amongst its members. The club will deny membership to anyone who is a member of any, versus group. That's not what they're about. They are literally just trying to have a social club together, and that they are also want to promote the things that Scottsville is trying to promote, to get some economic. It's an economic base. There's taxes will be paid. There's all those sorts of things that a club will provide, and so we can get into more details. I'm not sure really how relevant it is.
Well, it's
except
just
that-
relevant to me making a decision, right, on what the background is, I think is
Absolutely.
helpful, and maybe the other council members too.
And Alex, I think, Mr. Bissett, I think he can provide information as he knows it. I think he's not allowed to be part of the deliberations, as I understand,
Okay.
for some protection.
So
Thank
I
you.
have a question for Javi that relating to this. I get the impression that most of us are either wanting to get rid of the SUP altogether, or for those of us who going forward want to keep the SUP, are pretty, we feel kind of at ease with this club. Would it require a public hearing and everything to
Yeah.
grandfather in this club?
I have to go back.
Or could we?
Grandfather, because we have rules about, not inconsistent, grandfathering in it, but there's a legal term for it, I can't remember now. I checked with Jim before considering that. What I have to be clear is any text amendment needs to hear a public hearing before, and naturally, then the CPS you had before needs to have a public hearing.
So Javier, if we have a public hearing, then we can hear from the community at large as well regarding that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
okay,
It's like any zoning, you have to have an opportunity legally, and you want to hear from, it's legally, you need to hear from the public.
right. Because I would like to get a better sense from the rest of the businesses around how they feel, and potentially residents.
And that was one of the reasons I thought if you added an item to the agenda that you could vote in order to direct the administrator to proceed under that provision that will allow them to proceed by right. And then take up separately the issue of what you're gonna do with the ordinance.
Yeah.
I'll look through our code and touch base with Jim.
Let Jim-
Reach back out.
yeah, Jim can
Because
go away.
most probably-
Yeah. Sounds reasonable.
Thank you,
very
thank you.
much.
Thank you. Chairman Maxwell?
Who's next? I can't see the podium from where I
Evan
am.
Maxwell, Sergeant Jack.
Captain Jim.
So last Thursday,
Yep.
we had a major outage once again. Brentford decided to get an excavator this time around. They're replacing 708 bridge, correct? The 708 Red Hill and Point Bridge.
Yes.
And so they took an excavator and cut the main line down here once again along with 20.
So can you say that again? They took an excavator and cut the lines, not on purpose, right?
Yes, planning on getting the bridge set up for construction.
Right.
It did knock out for 8+ hours. There's nothing that we can do to prepare for this type of situation. I know that another state in Alaska had their main internet line under the, I guess the ocean down there got cut. And FEMA has denied their request for assistance, so this is, I think the county is not able to issue a emergency this time again. This doesn't meet the crash code of what FEMA requests for area emergency.
Yeah, and Supervisor Price, maybe you can weigh in on this because, we hear from Mr. Maxwell that it doesn't constitute emergency. But my concern for our community is there are many people who only have cellular service. And if the internet goes out, so does their cellular service, right? If there's a full emergency for one of the community members, there's no way to dial, an emergency, right? Is that true? And if so, can we make a case even within the county to hold Brightspeed more accountable for this?
I don't think
Yeah.
that state corporation. Yes, city.
They've been giving them area outages, and I guess one of the people on our board is sending a lot of stuff over to the state corporation. I haven't heard anything else, but I know this happened twice already this month, and just better, hopefully this won't happen again for firefighters.
Well, maybe we need to at least let our state representatives know
I think
where we stand on this.
they're aware of the state level issue now, and I know that, that's why, I guess that it happened in the last thing, they not approved their request.
Because it might be more, it might pack more punch coming from the county than it would just the town. So it might be something we could consider to collaborate on in the future to keep pressing the state representatives for some action on this.
Most of the success we had about a year or so ago was where it was multiple counties that came together.
Right.
To push the SCC to require certain commitments by Brightspeed.
Uh-huh.
But that's different than, this sort that where it's a failure to maintain the system is different than where there's an outside force such as an excavator cutting cable.
Yeah.
As Jack said, that's not the sort of thing that we can necessarily plan for in any particular location.
But I'm assuming, playing devil's advocate here, that they have to do some equivalent of misutility, right? To know where the infrastructure points are and provide those accurately for people doing these kinds of efforts.
Utility doesn't cover, those sort of, the old DSL power lines. I don't think they do for, the fiber optic cable.
Yeah, I know Miss Utility doesn't. I'm just asking for a functional equivalent, right? Okay.
I know that they're treating the way along Route 20, that section of, I was copying that, so I'm assuming that they're not coming back like power company does with their power lines, so we should somehow grab something since they're in the county to state corporation that they need to develop.
This happens all too frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it affects
It's
businesses, residents, and somebody's really going to be affected poorly from this in the future. It concerns me.
Did affect, I mean, when down here, from what I heard, we had 3 calls running and we were not able to hear them at the station. And we didn't know they were happening, and this is life or death situation.
Well, yeah, and a difference from a 3-minute response time to a 20-minute response time, right, is life or death in some cases.
But even if there is accountability for failure to identify the locations of the utility before it's cut, that doesn't change the consequence to the individuals who are unable to communicate. And again, you cannot plan for every eventuality like this.
Oh, no, I understand that. I mean, that's just reality, but there should be some accountability. This does happen quite a bit in
Multiple
Scottsville.
times a year. I mean, last time it was 3 days.
Mhm.
I think if Charlottesville went without cell service and internet service for 3 days,
Right,
that would be on CNN.
Yeah.
The
right.
entire nation would know Charlottesville. I'm not kidding. They would have CNN reporters down here. If every business in Charlottesville had to shut down because they had no internet, they had no cell service, people couldn't call 911, they couldn't get ambulances, they couldn't get fire trucks. It has been days like this and nothing has been done. The entire nation would know that. And the fact that we can't
Where do you draw the line? Is it 50,000 people in Charlottesville that becomes newsworthy? Is it?
No, I'm not just saying that, but what I'm saying is they have ways to correct, like, if this happened in Charlottesville, it wouldn't last 3 days.
And we would
They
have
would get it fixed, but when it happens in Scottsville,
What if it's 21st? I mean, my point is there is a distinction based upon the size of the outage and the resources that a company would put towards it. The smaller the number of people as part of the outage, then, economically, there's less incentive for them. So, you go from Scottsville to a neighborhood to a house. If you think back to the January.
but I mean, this was Esmond, it was Spain, it was over the
Finish
bridge.
speaking, please. Think back to the January 2nd storm. Power was out for a week throughout the county, and people were working on it. So a lot of it is going to be based upon, the size of the outage and the resources they're willing to put. Thank you for letting me finish.
Like I said, there's a building right here in Scottsville that Brightsby owns, where I cannot keep up with that building because nobody's there every day.
Well, I think certainly the Emergency Preparedness Committee should look at this in more detail and see if there are any other kind of recommendations that we can make, because 3 days is a long time for local businesses to be down because they can't get service.
And also knocked out Baldwin Middle School and Scottsville Middle School without the capability of having to be able to reach out to law enforcement if there's an incident. And then Scottsville Middle School had no way out of communication entirely.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And
Another Baldwin's dead zone too. So I just want to bring it to you guys' attention that this is an overview of what happened.
Okay,
Bring you guys' attention, if you guys have any questions, reach out.
okay, thank you, Jack.
and Supervisor Price, I apologize. I don't hold you accountable, and I certainly don't want to seem like I'm arguing with you. I know you have nothing to do with Brightspeed or anything like that. We're just voicing our frustration that it happens very often and,
3 of the worst years of my life were with Brightspeed.
yeah.
And fortunately now T-Mobile, their system will provide a